When I look at the analytics at the end of each episode, I notice that 60% of the listeners who enjoy this podcast aren't actually subscribed. So here is my promise to you. If you subscribe today, I will continue to push myself to make every single episode better and bring you conversations with the best photographers of the film industry. Thank you for your support. Nick, you said to me you never had a real job. You were always a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that relationship with you and the camera started?
I was very young, so I built my first darkroom when I was about 11 in my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
I had a little sink in there. So my dad had a darkroom. So when we left Germany to come here, I built my own darkroom. Bought a Russian enlarger for £10 or something,
Mm-hmm.
and started taking pictures of my friends at school.
What year are we talking about?
When I was 11.
Okay. In the 80s, I would say.
50 years ago.
You're a young soul, mate. I'll tell you that still. And, okay, and as you develop your career, when did you see that being a photographer was a career path that you could actually take?
I really had no idea. So I was just taking pictures of my friends' bands. Lots of bands were around this area. And so I was always the one with the camera. We'd go to festivals and hang out. I'd always have a camera. I wasn't very good, but I had a camera.
We're talking about black and white film, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's all I could do at home. I used to have a collage. One of my room was just a collage of 10 by 8 prints that I'd taken.
You used to develop your own film?
In the darkroom, yeah.
And as you grew older, let's say 18, 19, how did your professional career started before you became a unit stills?
Well, it was quite a long time before I started unit stills, but I started as a photographer. I left school and I got a job in a darkroom. And it was an agency, so I would also sell, I would generate pictures which I would sell to magazine and newspapers. So I would go to the new magazines with a portfolio of new pictures and try and sell them the pictures, which I'd just printed in the darkroom. And then I would start generating my own pictures. So I'd go to gigs, do concerts, do festivals, take those pictures to the magazines and newspapers, and then they'd say, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And they'd send me to a job when I was 18. So from then on, I was a photographer.
What camera were you using back then? Do you remember?
By the time I was 18, I had a Nikon FM2.
Yeah. Alex said to me the same. Yeah, FM2s.
I might have had an F3, battered old F3. Previously, I'd had a Pentax MX.
Mm-hmm. And when did you discover unit still then? We are talking, so according to your IMDb, you have 210 credits from the last almost 35 years, because you started unit still when I was born, 1991. How do you discover unit stills?
Well, so I spent a good 5-6 years just doing music and doing gigs and such like, and doing bands on tour, going on tour with bands and shooting bands, which wasn't very good for my health. So I went away for 6 months and recovered from that. And so when I came back, it was just a matter of where shall I go now? And I decided that, well, I'd always photographed famous people. So I decided to try the film industry. And then a colleague who did corporate work in Cannes asked me to be his second to cover jobs for him that he couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be private parties on yachts and just doing events basically, or doing group shots that they can then use the next following day in the trade magazines, which came out every day. So that's when I first started coming into the film industry.
And your first credit comes as Where Angels Fear to Tread.
Yeah, so I would do a lot of portrait work.
Yeah.
And then one day the PRs I was working with to do the portraits, and I was always pushing to try and get on a film set. I'd been on a few film sets just as a agency photographer.
What does it mean, agency photographer?
So an agency would spend a day and they'd own the pictures and they would place them in newspapers and magazines. So rather than having the unit photographer, you'd come in as a press photographer, as a press. Or, these happen sometimes still, like on Bond, you've got I can't remember his name now. Who always comes in. He's not part of the unit, but he comes in and does separate pictures that he owns. So I'd done that a couple of times, and then I was in Cannes, and they said, "Would you want to do this film in Florence, in Tuscany?" There was another photographer already attached, and I basically did it for next to nothing. Mm-hmm. But they gave me a hotel room and paid my flights and gave me some small fee. But that was my first film.
How was your experience on set?
It was. I was very naive. I knew nothing. I had no inkling of how to do this job properly. But I would quite often ask for shots, and I would bring up my Hasselblad and shoot them on my Hasselblad, medium format, which they used on the poster, etc. But they were just quick setups of what's on set. I didn't have a blimp.
How were you shooting without a blimp then?
So I would just shoot the rehearsals and do the exterior shots and ask for shots.
Okay. Where I'm guessing back in the 90s was completely different to the oil publicity machine that it is now, and especially with film cameras back in the 90s that they were really tricky to use. So how do your workflow work around using film cameras and film rolls? Do you have a preferred film roll that you use, or?
So back in the day, they on a small film. Once I got past that experience, I didn't do another film for quite a while. I don't know how long.
No, it's 96. You did Crime Time. That was the next credit that you have.
Which also wasn't a great experience, but so by that time I'd already learned a bit more. So you would have three bodies basically.
Okay.
You'd have and normally a budget on a low budget film would be 3 rolls of color and 1 roll of black and white a day.
Per camera or in total?
In total.
Okay.
That would be what the line producer would give you as a budget.
Oh, okay. So that was your budget.
Yeah. So you could only shoot a couple of hundred shots a day. And then you'd have one camera with a black and white film in it, one camera with whatever daylight film you've got, and one with the tungsten.
Okay.
Everything was shot on transparencies. Nothing was shot on negative.
Okay.
Some photographers shot on negative, but I preferred shooting on transparency. So the main difference there is that you have to be very precise. There's very little wiggle room for post-production.
And why do you take that gap between your first and second film? Why was that gap?
It took a while. I would still be doing lots of other work. I'd be doing beauty work, magazine work. And it's not taking the gap. It's just, as everything as a photographer, you try and make a living. So you do all these different jobs, and some things stick, some things don't. You try all different things to make a living, and then until the next time someone asks, you make more friends, more contacts, until someone asks you, do you want to come and do this film like Crime Time or
And who got in touch for you to do Crime Time? Was there someone that you met on your first film, or?
No, it was just someone. I was someone quite young who I probably met in Cannes, or I was for 14 years. I was the official photographer for the London Film Festival.
Oh, okay.
So I would do a lot of portraits there, and I'd do all their events, and a lot of portrait work, especially, which I'm very happy with. And then I met people there, and then some of those people who were like assistants for the festival organisers would then become producers, and they would give me a ring, and that's how I got this one.
Because so there was like a 4-year gap between the first one and Crime Time, and after that it's just fewer page career goes, bring me ahead to Mavis David, all of that 1997. So it's kind of you got the ball rolling into the unit still world. And why was it unit that you decided to go as a path when there was very little information about unit and
Well, I've always been a fan of film posters, so I've always been in that enjoying film posters. For me, that's the reason for doing the job, and it wasn't really a choice. It was more of a matter of this is where the work was coming from. I was quite happy to doing high-end magazine work, but then you'd get paid a lot more doing a high-end magazine job, but you'd only get one every few weeks. And so when you start doing stills, you're doing on a normal medium budget film, you're doing 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
So that adds up.
And I'm guessing that by 1997 you already had a blimp. One of those.
Yes, I got myself a blimp.
Jacobson boxes.
Yeah, an old one that wasn't really the right. I don't think it was made for the Nikons, but I used it anyway. And I've made a hole in it for the remote to fit the Nikon.
And how was it using how was using blimp on a film camera, which I'm guessing is all manual still in.
Yeah, you'd have to set everything have to set before you start shooting. So you'd have to be constantly opening up the back, changing the stop and the shutter speed. And of course, you can't. In those days, you couldn't. The fastest you could go on a tungsten film was probably 640 ASA. You're often shooting at very low shutter speeds.
Very limited. And was on your during the when you were shooting film. So you shot film for a good 15 years, I would say, before you went into digital.
I avoided digital as much as possible. So even when did digital really kick in? Maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Well, DSLR era. What are we talking about? Early 2000, 2003, 2005. Or when did you jump into digital?
I avoided it all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I avoided it for a long time until I couldn't anymore. Until the clients insisted on it.
Was that okay? Why did you reject it digital?
Well, it was rubbish at the time. There was a 12 megapixel camera was like the latest thing. I personally didn't. It had nothing particular to do with digital world. It's just I didn't think that the digital was very good. It had very little latitude. It was all about cost saving rather than getting the best results.
So you were always like result focused. That's why you chose to go film longer than actual digital.
I mean, until the Nikon's D800s came out. Yeah, that's when I went over. Whenever that was.
Oh, really? What about the D2X or D2H?
No, none of those were for me attractive at all.
And not even the client requested you to go digital?
No, I was just continuing shooting film.
What was
I can't remember now when it came out.
So. Oh, I have no idea. I'm gonna look it up. But what was once that the publicist will give you this budget in regards of the rolls of film that you can use? What were you doing with the rolls of films after you finished them at the end of the shoot? Were you giving them to publicists, or how did it work back then?
Yeah, so you send them off to the lab. You try and get them to use Pinewood stills, which was a lab in Pinewood. Yeah. Because that's all they did. So they were very good at handling the material. I could trust them to edit out all the rubbish, and they could just send it off straight to the client.
And how do you ask for images that you could use for your own portfolio? I mean, how do you get different proof that you work on these different projects in regards of the images?
Basically, the lab would keep the originals. Okay. And they would do all the dupes. So you make contact sheets from which they do the talent kills, and they select from, and then they would dupe the slides for distribution. So if they probably choose maybe 10 shots and make 100 dupes, which they would send to all the distribution companies around the world.
And how were you getting hold of those?
So I could either use the originals, which are at the lab, to make a print.
Okay.
Or I could grab one of the dupes.
But do you call the lab saying, can I get some approvals of the images that I can use for my own portfolio? Or
no, you'd have to just keep your eye out to see what they've approved. You'd probably get a copy of all the set that they're going to send out.
Uh-huh.
And then you just use those.
How do you move from project to project? Was it always like word of mouth from the previous job that you done, that they rehire you to the next project?
I think it's a matter of building up contacts, isn't it? So if it's a PR that's become decided to be helpful to you, or takes you under their wing,
Mm-hmm.
then so to say some bit, they might be doing 3 or 4 TV shows, and they send you to cover various bits.
But was it like it is today, that you were doing just a few days, or was it like you were on set all the time?
Depends on the project. If you look at something like Sexy Beast, which was in the south of Spain,
Yeah.
So we were there for 4 weeks. So I would be there for the full 4 weeks on set every day. They would maybe negotiate a lower rate for being on full time.
Yeah.
But you would be on full time. Quite often you'd be on full time, in fact.
Was your work mainly film or TV?
It was nearly all film. There was some TV. A lot of those, to make those numbers of 200 shows, often, but you'd only be on for like 5 days on a TV show. And quite often you'd only do especially on mainstream TV, ITV and BBC shows, you'd probably just go in and do one of those very cheesy kind of looking at camera setups. And they would use them for the front covers of the TV Times and all those kind of magazines.
Were you offering as well to do the posters and specials and gallery shoots as well?
Yeah, because I was more comfortable with that anyway. That's where I came from doing portraits. It was, funnily enough, I don't do much anymore.
Yeah.
So it was all part and parcel. You wouldn't quite get. It's the same as now, where if you're an in-house photographer and you do the poster shoots, it's a lower rate than if you've been brought in from an advertising agency.
Yeah, of course.
To do specials, but they look exactly the same, whether you did them or they did them. But that's another story. But if you were involved with the film, quite often they wouldn't think of giving you the job to someone else.
But what would you rather? What do you prefer doing back in the 90s? Would you prefer doing unit day, or would you prefer the gallery shoots?
I think it's all. I think photography, especially, is a bit like traveling. So I like the variation. I like to do something different every day.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the gallery shoots because I get to play with my lights. When I did beauty work, I would get all my toys out for those kind of like L'Oreal type things that you would see in beauty salons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You'd get all your lights out, all your bits and pieces you've picked up, which you would then transfer into doing the special shoots.
How many years of advertising photography you had under your belt before going?
I've never counted them, and I don't think it really works that way. It's just it all overlaps.
So you were still doing marketing alongside.
Yeah, you'd still do all the other work. The thing is, once you start doing films, you're not available. And so you start losing the other clients.
Yeah.
Because they ring you 3 or 4 times, and every time you say, I'm on location for the next 3 weeks, and then they stop ringing you after a while. So,
but what was more fun? The advertising marketing thing or the unit back then? Or was you were more focused on whatever was paying the bills?
Whatever's paying the bill is the most important. Because it's so hard to survive as a photographer. Mm-hmm. But it's nice. It's better. It's nicer doing the special shoots because you're the main person in it's all about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. While on set as a still photographer, you're very low on the food chain.
How many How many unit still photographer you knew from the 90s? Was there a big unit community, or
I met one, I think.
who was that? Alex?
No, I didn't know anyone. No one. I didn't. The only was that guy who took me to Cannes, who also did unit photography. The only advice he ever gave me was be as close to the camera as possible.
So, and how do you learn the set etiquette and stuff like that? Like,
You just learnt it, just did it.
till AD tell you off?
Yeah, might have got told off by AD, but it's just you use your logic. Don't get into shot, don't get in anyone's way, don't get into an eye line. So I've been in eye lines a few times. I've been shouted at. People were a lot ruder back then than they are now. Now people tend to say please before they say fuck you. Well, in those days they would just tell you to fuck off. So.
What do you find challenging of shooting unit stills on film? What was the most challenging part of being on set?
Just the most challenging part is you've got to try and get a shot that's better than what they're shooting. It's got to be better than. There's got to be a reason why you're there. So that's the most challenging part is to be better than the screen grab.
Yeah, of course. But as well, doing it on film, when you only go 36 shot, you have to make it count, I guess.
Yeah, so you would, but nowadays I might come home and have shot 600 shots, and I'd still only get the same amount of good shots because there's only so many setups they do. You're more likely to miss a shot. So if it's a stunt,
How was your workflow around stunts, shooting film, and were you always having to measure light all the time?
I'd always have my light meter on me, same as the DOP. I'd often have to just walk into set, just take light readings, and then set them up. Because it often is low key lighting, which especially in the old film cameras, you didn't have a spot meter or anything, so you'd have to take your ambient light reading, especially if you're shooting transparencies. And
you have just to pray that is.
No, you get good at it, obviously.
yeah, of course, you get good at it with practice. But looking back, using mirrorless now is much easier.
It's a lot easier. It's a lot more accessible for everyone, and also it's so much easier you can learn much more easily on the job. I tend to still shoot like I'm shooting on film.
In regards of
method.
Okay.
I don't look at the pictures after I've taken them because there's nothing I can do. You tend to know when you've got the shot, so you should just trust yourself and move on. And if it didn't work, if the shot's no good, then you just put it in the bin and no one will know.
Yeah, of course. Is there a show that you remember the most from the film era? So let's say from when you started up until before you went digital, was there a film job that you done or a project that you done that it pushed your career forward, or it was, I get more recognition because of this work than any other film that you done?
Don't really know. I think Sexy Beast for me is an important moment.
Yeah.
I was shot on film. It was probably still one of my favorite films that I've worked on. It's still the test of time. It's still.
Sexy Beast was 2000.
Well, it was 1999 because I remember I took my 3-month-old son with me to the south of Spain.
That was Spain, huh?
Yeah.
And was there another project that you done that on film that you remember that this was? This is another highlight from.
I can't actually remember now. I always have problems remembering anything I've done.
There is the amount of time you were on set is just mind-boggling. So you've been on set the same time as I was born. So you got 35 years of experience of being on set. So I'm guessing that you've seen it all and you've done it all at this point, isn't it?
Pretty much. And I find it much easier. I find that people know that I'm experienced when I come on set. So they know that I'm not going to get in the way. They know I'm not. If I'm standing where the dolly's going to be or where the Steadicam operator's moving to, he knows I won't be there by the time he gets there. So
how do you manage fees back in the 90s?
They basically they tell you how much it is,
and you say yes or no.
Yeah.
But how do you know that was the right fee?
Because it's always, in those days, it was always a phone call. It wouldn't be an email. So that conversation is completely different. They wouldn't just offer the going rate. And around the time I did my first film, the unions it was really hard to become a stills photographer unless you were a member of the union. And that was slowly breaking down. Now I'd rather they'd have the union back, but that's another story.
Yeah, that's a different story. So you just have to go with whatever they were offering you, isn't it?
Yeah, they would have the same as now. They have their spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And the line producer would put stills X amount, and you decide to take that or not.
At what point you realize that stills you had like more photographers coming through the door? Was there a point that you said, "Oh, stills is becoming a thing now"?
I think it's basically when smartphones became everything, because there's very few places for photographers to go. There's no magazines, not like that was in my day. Advertising, the low end advertising has almost disappeared. So your high end advertising obviously still exists. So basically, the phones and then the mirrorless cameras. Those two made everyone go, where can we go? Where can I make a living as a photographer? And unit stills is one of the few places where that still exists as a form of work for photographers.
Apart from that, what is the biggest change that you've seen in the film industry as a unit still photographer from your perspective of the last 35 years of experience?
It's just so much easier to actually get the good image because you've got your screen.
Instant feedback.
So you're seeing the picture live. And I use the screen a lot on set because of peripheral.
Yeah.
So as I said earlier, I can see the Steadicam operators moving towards me. I can get out of his way because I'm looking at the screen. I still wish that we had an analog viewfinder that would just see the image properly. Because I find looking at the screen just never, even through the viewfinder, the digital viewfinder is just not the same.
From the point of view of, that's from the camera point of view, but from working on a film set on a day-to-day, was there any other massive change in regards of, I don't know, crew, amount of crew you get? Is it harder to get? Harder? What do you reckon?
I think it's the same, truthfully. There's there's more toys on set now.
Yeah.
So that you quite often will shoot on cranes much more often, things that make your life more difficult. But generally, and also you tend to get less days on projects. I'm not sure why that is, but I think probably a mistake because we're so cheap. When you think about the millennia, Trump spending 30 million on marketing.
How do you manage the quiet times?
Well, I think the quiet times is the difference between succeeding and not succeeding. The ones who survive the quiet times without thinking their career is over and moving on to something else, those are the people that survive, that's still around.
You made it 35 years, man.
So you've got to be good at surviving the quiet times.
But how do you manage the quiet times personally?
For instance, after COVID, there was a big boost in production.
Yeah.
And all the people that arrived, the new people, they all went out and bought cars and more expensive equipment, and I just went, this won't last. so that when the quiet times, like last year was pretty quiet for me, relatively speaking, I had to survive on the money I earn. So that's the important thing, is to always factor in your quiet time.
What
Never think, I'm earning £10,000 this month, so I'll be fine. You've got to think, you've got to think about that as per of the year, not the month.
was it back when you're shooting film? Was it like, do you have these quiet patches in like January, February, or was it more like a all year round stuff?
It could be at any time. January, February obviously is always quiet, generally speaking.
Yeah.
But it could be at any time. You could be hit by a quiet period.
Well, from what I heard, last year was pretty quiet for everyone. Everything like kicked off quite late as well, like it normally be. So, do you have this big quiet times before, or is that a new thing that came with the digital revolution? Or was it more like constant?
There was before the Americans came here big. I wish they did. Maybe when the tax breaks came in, it was very quiet in the UK generally. A lot of my projects were abroad, so the industry wasn't very big. They would have half a dozen reasonably sized movies, 30, 40, 50 million, which was quite big then. And then a whole bunch of TV stuff. And then they'd actually made more independent films than they do now, which are the films I actually enjoy working on most, because you're more of a family. But generally, the amount of productions shooting is much higher now.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot more people doing my job. So.
Well, because what I've seen now in the last couple of years is that the film industry goes like this. It goes like, boom, 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 we're all in production, like running like headless chicken, and after that just drops again. Do you have these drops before, or was it just a constant wave of up and down? It was so drastically that everyone goes shooting in summer, and after that just dies in October, November?
I've never really thought of it that way, but I think I never thought of it as waves, or it's just any time. I mean, sometimes I could be working on 4 projects at the same time, and I'd be working 7 days a week. What time of year it was, that is pretty irrelevant. And most productions, especially independent productions, their financing is so complicated. And then when it suddenly gets together, they just have to go. And then they ring you the day before they go into production, because you're the last thing they think of.
How much notice do you have before in the 90s, early 2000s for projects?
It's pretty small. So I could be on my way on holiday, and I would get a call, and that's it. I wouldn't go on holiday.
Because as well, you had like young kids back in the 2000s. So how did you manage going to work, starting a project, having the kids and all that jiggling around?
Well, it's complicated. Obviously, my wife would probably say that I was away a lot. I mean, I did a lot of film in the North Pole and Africa and New Zealand, and I'd be away for 5-6 weeks. So my wife would have to take the burden. Luckily, my wife's mother did help a lot.
Was that a project, apart from the project that you said before, which was it Sexy Beast?
Yeah.
Was it another project that you done outside the UK that you really enjoyed from the traveling as an experience?
Well, I've been up to Svalbard twice. This is an amazing experience. And the last one I went we actually went to the ice sheet near the North Pole. We went up to 83 degrees north to try and find the ice sheet, because it was the end of summer, so it was quite hot. We had to go far north to find the ice sheet.
How was traveling with kit back then?
Well, we were on boats. So you mean the kit dealing with the cold weather? Yes,
and traveling. So I'm guessing you would take a plane then, and after that boat.
Well, we'd have to travel we'd have 2 boats. We had 3 boats. One was a hero boat, and then one was mainly for equipment, like art department stuff and the cranes or anything else we've got. And then one would be like a hotel boat. And so you try and find yourself a corner on the boat and that would be where you have your kit and where you do your post-production, or at least your uploading or downloading. There was no internet. There's no internet at all there, so there's no communication. You can't even have a phone call. So,
what year was this?
I've done it twice. So one was called Far North, and one was called the North Face, North Water.
But was this digital or was it still on film?
I think the
Far North is 2007.
So I think that was mostly still shot on film. I used an X-Pan quite a bit, which is my favourite camera.
Funny that you say that. Now I bought film cameras as well because I want to learn how to shoot with intent. Because of course I grew up in a digital era and I never really touched a film camera. So I bought a film camera, and digging out and stuff, I found out about the X-Pan, and I just realized how capable an X-Pan it was from when it was released, and it just blew my mind how the perspective that you get with an X-Pan, which is not. It's not 35. What is it?
It's more like anamorphic. So
yeah,
but without having to correct it. Normally anamorphic, it has to be corrected back into the right format. So,
do you still own any of the X-Pans?
I've kept my X-Pans. Yeah, I've only kept my X-Pans and my medium format Hasselblads. That's the only film stuff I've kept. I sold all my.
Everything else.
Why?
So you said that on this project you use the X-Pan.
And I still use the X-Pan quite a bit. So,
oh really?
On various, I used it on the other one, which I went to the North Water. I used it there as well.
Just mainly the X-Pan, or do you had another 35mm with you?
For which one?
Well, let's say Far North then.
Far North. That was because that was mostly shot on film. So I would have my 2 35mm or 3 35mm cameras, and the blimps but I think by that stage I was already carrying 2 blimps, one for each. So if I'm in daylight, I'd have one for black and white, one for color, or if it's interior night, or then it's one tungsten and one black and white.
I want to check when was the. You said that your first digital Nikon was a Nikon D800.
I think so. Yeah.
So let me look it up because we took in 2007. 2007 there were already digital. So Nikon D800 it was announced in 2012.
Okay.
Were you using film up until 2012?
Yeah, pretty much, probably, yeah.
And everyone was okay with that.
There wasn't much. The other cameras were not. Yeah, they had much. They didn't really ask. It was only much later that people started insisting on digital.
Okay. How was it changed to digital?
It was gradual. So I loved the Nikon D800s and the 802s or 801s or whichever that came afterwards. I thought the image quality was great. You still had an analog viewfinder. Mm-hmm. So although the mirror was a bit clunky, it was even through a blimp, you could probably hear it. A sound man would probably pick it up. So you had to be sensitive to how you shot.
You had a little bit more than Alex Bailey, but you had like 17 years of shooting film. When they started asking you to go digital, how did your workflow change? Did it become more expensive to shoot digital, or was it something that you were doing?
Well, you'd make less money because on a lot of this, you'd mark up most of the film and processing, so you'd make a bit more money on the side.
Where do you? Okay, you said that with the rolls you were sending them to the lab. So how were you getting paid more for?
Well, it depends if the lab, they make an account, and also I'm buying film, so then charging back the production.
Okay.
So
as an expense.
As an expense.
Okay. So that's. But do you have it towards the end of using film? Do you still have a limit in regards of how many film Like,
I mean, it's your own discretion, but obviously there are times where you'll shoot more. But as an average, that's what they want you to do, to shoot on a low budget film. I'm sure on a big budget movie they wouldn't care, how much you shoot. And sometimes you'd use the same negative as they are. You'd spool their film onto 35mm spools.
Mm-hmm. Before we went into digital, like I was saying, I just found out about the X-Pan, and I got fascinated by how the field of view that you get from an X-Pan that is completely different from another 35mm, and it's not as panoramic as one of these Wildlux, I think it's called. They only Wildlux is 180, I think. So the images that you can capture on X-Pan, they're very, very cinematic, I would say.
Very, yeah. And there's no distortion. No, there's just. Sometimes I look at it and go, how do they do that? Because the end of the lens is very close to the negative. So I don't know how they managed to spread the film especially to 35mm.
The X-Pan right now is it's pretty expensive. Was it really expensive back then?
Yeah, I mean, it was fairly expensive, but I think I got lent from Hasselblad a whole bunch of stuff when I went to do 60 Beast, which is where I first used it. And by the time I got back, it was so battered, they pretty much gave it to me.
Oh wow! But how do you get in touch with Hasselblad?
They would always reach out. The salespeople would reach out. I was doing fairly high-end portraits work. I was shooting fairly well-known people like David Bowie, and so it was not. So they would try and sell me. They want me to use their equipment, so they'd reach out to me.
Who another high-profile do you shoot? You said you shot David Bowie.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I can't even go. I don't. There's a book down there just with hundreds of them. But,
do you print your own book?
That's a little book. There's a book that I got printed. I didn't print it myself, but I put it together. And I used to print my own portfolios and stuff. I used to always have a printed portfolio.
Yeah, and how do you pass that printed portfolio to productions if they needed to?
It was a big thing, and I'd carry it. I went to Los Angeles even 5 or 6 years ago, and I had a printed portfolio, and went to see all the studios, all the people who hire stills photographers, and I had a printed portfolio, and they all go, "Oh, printed," and they were very amazed.
Well, it's novelty now having a printed portfolio, I think. But back then, I'm guessing that was the usual.
Yeah, I was even back in the day. It was only a printed portfolio. I've got a metal case that used to it was just full of stickers from the bike people, from where it was going.
Once that you went digital, you just fully on digital, chew the 800s, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
What was the biggest benefit that you've seen on digital than you said, oh, this is easier than when I was doing film?
The main thing is latitude. So you can really screw your picture up and still probably manage to get something out of it. Mm-hmm. More so now than then. So you could easily recover 2 stops if you really needed to. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest benefits is, of course, you keep a copy of everything, and every copy that's made is as good as the original. Which on film, every time there was a dupe made of a slide, you would degrade.
Oh, really? They didn't know that.
Yeah, so the slide. So that's why quite often when you look at the pictures from an old film, they look terrible because you've just been duped again.
So according to this, 2012 is when you got the 800s. Did it make your life easier? Or did you refuse using? Well, you said you did refuse going digital, but I'm guessing that the 800s, they already were quite advanced for the digital era.
Yeah, I mean, they were perfect for portrait work because they were quite high megapixel count. So they were really good. They were always like medium format.
Yeah.
I think that's what I did use medium format digital cameras for portrait work and such like. Mm-hmm. The main thing is that the amount of extra work you have to do now.
What, in regards of?
Like in the old days, I put my camera, my film, I'd give it to the second AD at the end of the day, and they would send it off to the lab. And that was it. That was it.
And now is the editing time that you had to count for.
Yeah, now I have to do all this extra work.
Is there a project now in the digital era that that was a highlight for you? What was a highlight project that you done in the digital era now? Let's say in the last 15 years.
I don't know.
I mean, you done so much on digital now. I'm guessing now. Look at this 2012. Sinbad, Bert and Dickie, Flying Blind, Broken, Street Dance 2, Inside Man, The Woman in Black.
So Woman in
My
Black
Brother
was
the
quite
Devil.
big. My Brother the Devil was a very good film. And Woman in Black obviously was quite high profile.
All of these 2012 months. So I'm guessing that you were working on these films at the same time, a year or two before that.
Yeah, so it would be before 2012. That's the release date.
That's the release date, of course. So, man, you were pretty busy. Well, Top Boy, the original one, BBC, I'm guessing.
It was Channel 4.
Channel 4 it was.
Mm-hmm. I used to work quite a lot for Channel 4, but I think that's one of those places where it's good to go especially with your. I always recommend Channel 4 to people, especially when they're starting out. Their fees tend to be a bit lower, but you keep copyright. Or you used to keep copyright. I don't know if that's changed.
How did you were mirrorless? You jumped from Nikon to Sony.
No, the first mirrorless camera I bought was a Fuji XT1.
Oh, original Fuji's, man.
But I only bought it basically so I could put a remote on cranes.
Yes, because they were like small one time.
They're small. You could just do it on a. So that was my main reason for getting. I think that was filmed with Meryl Streep, and that's the first time I went during the production. I went out and bought that camera.
Mm-hmm. When did you buy the Sonys then?
So I would have bought Nikon's mirrorless,
okay.
But the only cameras that were any good at the time were Sony's. For full frame. The Fujis were very good, but they weren't full frame. I find the Fujis, I like to work with very minimal depth of field, and the small chip, too much of the stuff is in focus. I found it harder to get people to look at the bits I want them to look at.
Yeah.
So Sony were the only cameras that were of a decent standard. Nikon were miles behind, and so were Canon.
Well, it's only quite recent as well, and Nikon released Set 9s and Set 8s.
I think now it would make no difference which one you would choose. I would definitely not recommend any one brand over another.
Mm-hmm. They're all the same.
They're all very good. I mean, if you can't take a good picture with these cameras, then you should try another job.
If you have to start your career again, is unit still something that you would choose to do still? Or would you like to try something else as a career?
I mean, I think if you could start your career again, you would avoid all the mistakes you might have made. So,
which one were some of those mistakes?
I don't know, like you might be a bit arrogant towards someone. You might lose some clients. You might lose a path to go down. So, if you could not make those mistakes. It's all part of growing up is making mistakes. So I guess that's impossible. But if you could do it again, you could avoid those same mistakes. So you would much more. Those mistakes might have cost you to become another Richard Avedon or something similar, something more exciting, more public, something that more likely to be figured in the National Portrait Gallery. That kind of name. So those kind of. So those moments that you may have lost just from your own insecurity or your own not picking up the phone or not following up a lead.
If you have to, but would you choose it again rather than stick with a newspaper or as a portrait photographer? As a celebrity portrait photographer.
I think it's a fabulous world. I think I'm very thankful for the time I've had. I've had really exciting times. I've seen some amazing things all around the world. And so I've had the travel side, which I've always enjoyed. Traveling was always my number one thing. Even I started traveling when I was about 14. So that's always been a huge part of my life. And so I think that, and then dealing with having a front seat with people's doing things that like actors do and directors and DOPs do, having a front row seat to those occasions is like traveling. So every day, sort of you don't know what you're going to see that day.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you go to work, that changes sometimes when you're on a big studio movie. You can often feel that you're doing the same thing every day. But
Do you feel like uni still is competitive and overcrowded now on this day and age?
it's definitely overcrowded. Yeah. I wouldn't want to start now. Yeah, there's so many more photographers doing it. I can't really complain because I must have been one of those young guys who came and started stealing other people's work. So,
But there weren't that many back in the 90s, was it?
not that many because you need to buy a blimp. So that cost alone, it's quite, unless you really want to do it, you wouldn't go and buy a blimp maybe just in case. So you're more likely to, I think you're more likely to do the events or the...
Well, at your time you had this technical kind of filter to get into a uni still world. Now with all digital, technically it's easier from the camera point of view, but you still need to have the people skills in order to get on set, because people would only hire you for what you are on set, not for the pretty pictures that you might take.
Yeah, I saw that bit in Gareth's interview. No, yeah, definitely the people skill is very.
What is a key
I think one of the key thing is when you're a photographer, you're quite often you're the main focus of every shoot that you do when you're learning. So when you're doing stuff with models and you're doing fashion, and if your ego is too big, you will not survive on set as a stills photographer. You have to know where you are on. I said this before, the food chain. Mm-hmm. So you get to learn it, but you have to be able to accept it. And if you're that kind of person, you shouldn't go into it. So some photographers have managed to do it with a big ego, but then they often have friends like an actor who takes them wherever they go. He makes sure that he's the photographer on whatever projects they work on. Then they can sometimes have that more central role.
How do you deal with actors that are difficult to work with?
Depends how difficult. Sometimes they have a phobia about stills, but they're very nice. So they will give you some time. You just have to be patient. Have to deal with the stress of having only 30 seconds to get the shot that you want. And the shot will never be as good as if you were generally not as good. As you're in the better place, but you get less of the performance.
Yeah.
But if the actor is horrible, then there's not much you can do about it, really. Or completely unhelpful. That can also happen.
Do you have a lot of those experiences?
Yes. I've got a list of actors I wouldn't work with. Again. But I wouldn't tell you who they are.
No, of course, no, of course not. But no, I just wanted to know how do you deal with it? Because of course you have a job to do as well on set,
mm-hmm.
and you do have to take pictures of them. What do you tell the publicists?
Yeah, I tend to, as soon as I know that this is going to be a difficult person, I tell the producers, I tell the publicists, I tell the marketing people, whoever's hired me, I tell everyone really. So I might warn them, well, I'm going to be, if they're not too horrible, I'll stay on the job. And then I'll have to warn everyone that I'm limited to what I can achieve every day.
Mm-hmm.
I had one job where all I could do was the rehearsal, and maybe they'd only have one rehearsal all day, and they wouldn't do anything afterwards. So I said, well, you're going to have to give me another 20 days. because that's the only way I'm going to get you a full set of pictures.
Were they fine with it?
They gave me more days, but the set was still very disappointing. But that person went on my list.
What is one of the hardest challenges that you have to overcome?
I think it's nearly always, every job is different. So it's always coming in and figuring it out. So that's the main hardest challenge. I don't think there's a common one. It's always a different one, it seems. You can suddenly find, I've been on a set, suddenly you find a boom operator who's actively trying to sabotage your ability to work. I mean, that's only happened to me once, but it's happened.
How do you deal with these challenges? Because you are there to do a
Let's
job.
put it this way, he got sacked.
Yeah, but you still have to. Yeah, but you still had to.
Yes.
You still had to be there.
Most of the time I try and kill them with kindness.
Okay.
Try and be extra understanding about what they need.
Okay.
Sometimes a grip might need just more space, but there is no space on the sets. But if that grip needs it, that his job is more important at the time than yours. So that's basically how you run the film set. And it's the same with the boom operator. He's having a horrible time. They often have a horrible time trying to get a decent sound, as you know. And just understanding these things, that's the main. The focus puller, like you said, I think before, if you're standing too close to a focus puller, some of them are very, some more experienced ones, they don't give a shit. You can stand in front of them and they don't care. One of my best friends is a focus puller, still rarely uses a screen. He still likes to be by the camera and just focus pull by there. Obviously, with the more modern equipment, that's harder to do. But
Yeah. There are some well-known stuff that you've done here that I can recognize. Game of Thrones, 2015, one episode.
Yeah, I did. I needed 2 weeks for that actually in Spain, and I just covered for
Helen.
For Helen because she couldn't go to Spain, so I just did those 2 weeks. I didn't cover for her directly, but HBO just got in touch with me and said, "Can you come to Spain?" I spoke to Helen when I arrived in Spain.
All is True, additional stills. That was
that
was Rob Youngson.
Yeah, I did the first day, and then they offered it to me, but the fee was very low, and I had another job that had the proper day rate. But I think that worked very well for Rob.
For Rob, yeah,
because I think it led to other things.
Stan and Ollie, that was with what's her name? We spoke about
Amy.
With Amy.
Yeah.
Amy coding for Amy, huh?
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Why?
Because the actor didn't like stills, but he would always do a shot for you afterwards. But it was still tough.
The Great. That was Gareth, I think.
No, this was the pilot. I did the pilot.
Oh, you did the pilot.
They did offer me the series, but I was busy. So.
Yeah, Killing Eve. I just guess everyone done Killing Eve.
I think everyone's done that. Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I cannot see here is Silent Witness.
Oh yeah, I have done a couple of days on Silent Witness, but that's everyone's nightmare job. I think.
Is it?
I think she's very difficult for stills.
Code 404. That was Share with Sally.
No, I did both of those. The last two, I did the first two series, and I think she might have done the last one because that was in Birmingham, I think.
Yeah. I mean, man, the amount of... I'm just blown away by how you kept being so relevant after 35 years.
Relevant?
Well, not relevant, but...
How you managed to keep working?
How you managed to keep working after such a long time, and how your ability to adapt to the changes throughout the 35 years that you've been doing this. And that is really, I find that remarkable, because I think that in order to still having to work, you need to be as flexible as possible, especially with you went from film to digital mirrorless. And from there, all the change that happened in the film industry in the last 6-7 years.
Yeah, there haven't been that many changes, but I mean, they still make films pretty much the same. I mean, they shoot rehearsals now, or they don't cut and stuff like that. But I mean, I thought when they started using digital film cameras, that would be the end of stills photography on set. But I was busier than ever afterwards. So,
do you think that AI is the end of unit still photography?
AI, well, the use of AI. I think Netflix have now got an AI program that grabs frames, screen grabs, can even grab from 3 or 4 frames and put them together, that kind of thing. But so you wouldn't know that it was a screen grab, that kind of thing. So they have software for all that kind of stuff now. So obviously that's a worrying thing, but then AI is a worry. I was thinking about this earlier today. I was thinking, I can't think of a single person who said what we really need is AI in anything.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Apart from medicine, I can't really think of a reason why anyone would want AI.
Where do you see unit stills as a career in the near future? Do you think that's still going to be a job?
I think as long as you're part of the storytelling, I think we're going to need storytellers always. And I think we'll be able to tell the difference between an original story so if you're part of the storytelling narrative, and the storytellers want the genuine article to be represented, then I think you'll be fine.
Apart from being flexible on set, and I think that's how you keep relevant in the unit still. As having unit still career as being as a job and to live as a unit still photographer for such a long time. What other skill could you think that is necessary?
I think that's I'm not sure if it's just a unit stills question. I think it's more being able to take your knockdowns. I think that's probably the most important, but that's the same in almost all careers. Being able to take rejection and continue, like, you have a rejection and the next day you go and try something else or phone someone new. I feel, especially when I was younger, the people that were more talented than me were more sensitive to knockbacks,
mm-hmm.
and couldn't handle them. They would disappear off into a haze of hashish for a few weeks before they could emerge again and with enough courage to try again.
How do you deal with that?
You just have to knock it off. I think there's resilience. I think that's the most important thing. You need resilience to deal with the fact when you're not working, and to deal with the fact when you're being knocked back.
Was there a project that you like to do in the future that you haven't done yet? Was there is there something? I really would love to do this in the future. If there is anything left in the creativity can that you would like to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is always I think that of late I haven't really done a project which I really thought the end result was amazing for a while.
Really?
I mean, I think the Black Mirror was very good. I really enjoyed those. I thought they were very of a high standard. The writing was very good, and the acting and direction was very good. So more of that.
More of Black.
More. Yeah. I mean, there's a new series of Black Mirror coming out, starting soon. So I'm hopefully on that. More of that, but even in a film sense. I saw a film. It's my favourite film of last year, called Sirat,
mm-hmm.
Spanish film, and I'd love to do more of that kind of, where you go. I vote. I'm a BAFTA voter, so I have to watch hundreds of films at this time of year. And just that, I work more on the kind of films where you go, I'm really proud to have been part of that. Not because it was commercially successful, just because it was a really good film.
Black Mirror, you did 11 episodes between 2023 and 2025. The whole thing of Black Mirror is just completely different to anything that we've seen before. Was that the reason that you felt that Black Mirror was a highlight on your career?
Yeah, because the stories are so good. I mean, working on the series is great because every episode is completely new, different crew, different director. Everyone's different apart from the backroom people. So on the first series, I think I was like the only consistent person on set. But
even the camera team would change.
Yeah, camera team, art department, everything is different on every episode.
Wow. So you were the only consistent.
Yeah, so everyone is like a standalone film. So the director and would have his own art director, and they would make that episode. So.
Was there a favorite episode that you like most above the others from Black Mirror?
I think it varies.
Well, that you enjoy more than another one.
And I think all the actors and all the people that they chose, they've always been high-end actors, but they seem to have a saying in the production saying no cunts allowed. So everyone is really cooperative and everyone's working together. So it works really.
You have Towards Zero as well, additional stills. That's James. Pardon, Bristol.
Is it James or is it?
James did Towards Zero.
Yeah, I did. Yes, I remember he was worried when I covered the first few days that he couldn't do it. He was worried that he wasn't going to get. He was going to lose the job. But no, I was just covering for him basically. It was the producers. One of the producers who had a husband who's a DOP. So I was recommended she ring me. So.
Where would you like to be in 5 years?
Still alive. I still like to be working. I'm not sure how much.
How much would you like to still be doing? How active would you like to be?
I don't know how much work I'll still be getting. That's the main because there's so many people doing the job now. I find it hard to go out and hustle for work. It's not something I'm very good at because I haven't had to do it.
Well, but surely you build up a clientele that can keep you busy.
You would have thought so, but I think that they change as well. So a new generation comes through. It's the same with the photographers who make their own alliances. Sometimes I think I look at my work and I'm going like, I'd hire me, but then you don't get the work because someone else has made the alliances necessary to get the job, or I can't, or I'm not, and I don't know how to reach out these days. Because in my day, when I first started, you would make meetings always, so you'd always know who you were dealing with. Most of the time, when I'm dealing with photo wranglers from Netflix, or they're on the other side of the Atlantic, I never meet them, apart from maybe a Zoom meeting.
Yeah,
which is better than nothing. Because at least then you've got some kind of connection.
Yeah,
but I don't think I'd ever want to retire. I'd like more portrait work. But a lot of my favorite portraits I did for no money. So I do a lot of portraits in Cannes. I went to Cannes for 35 years in a row, and I would just we would go to the beach and just take a portrait of a famous person, say, I don't know, Cameron Diaz on the beach, and the PR would go, "Oh yeah, I can give you 5 minutes here. Have 5 minutes." And these are some of my favorite moments.
Every year you went to Cannes?
Yeah.
Wow. And how do you arrange for? What do you tell PR to?
But it's changed now. Now you can't just turn up on the beach and give you 5 minutes.
Okay, but how do you arrange that back then?
So I'd be working for them. So I'd be working for them doing the events, and remember I said I was covering for someone else.
Yeah.
Then after a while, he stopped doing it, and I took over the accounts, and I started doing all the main coverage, and I'd have 2 or 3 other photographers covering events for me. You
said something about big jobs. You don't want to do big jobs anymore.
No, I do want to do them, and I do feel it makes sense, especially financially. I don't think they're the most exciting part of the filmmaking process. Not on a stills perspective. A lot of a stills photographer's job is just to be there at the moment that it's important.
Yeah.
On a big film, those moments are rare on a single day. So you could be shooting half a page, maybe a page of script in a day. You find it really dragging then, waiting around. Doesn't have the momentum. Doesn't have the even on bigger television series such as The Witcher or or Queen Charlotte or any of those. They have a good rhythm of 6, 7 pages, 4 to 6 pages a day, which just takes. There's no stopping. The day just motors on.
What was a project that you really felt that was
For the ones I just mentioned today, but I think most I like my favorite ones are usually the medium-sized budgets, like 30 to 40 million. The actors are very committed because they're not doing it for top dollar. They're committed because they want to be there because they believe in the script or they believe in the director. And I think that makes it much more conducive to a family atmosphere. And that's why I like. Sometimes you can walk on a big film and you never even get introduced to the director. You know, it's.
What was the biggest budget that you done?
I don't know. To truthfully told, I haven't done I don't think I've done a really big film like.
But something. Well, I mean, you said that you like most the middle budget ones where they flows easily. What was the opposite experience of a day being dragging? What experience was that? What title was that?
I can't remember now.
Let me see. You said The Kingsman was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that wasn't my project. That was Giles.
Okay, yeah. So less of a Kingsman, more of a Queen Charlotte. Then. So
well, Queen Charlotte is
for the next
big,
5 years,
that's working hard. That's quite a hard-working show. I think. I mean, some people like to work really full time. I mean, I still know. If you asked me earlier about my downtime, I will go away. You know, I will travel.
Yeah. So for the next 5 years, keep constant working, but not.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult when you're no longer reaching. I mean, I don't think I'm going to raise my level in public terms.
But as long as you have constant work.
Yeah, I think the because of my age, you're no longer reaching you've sort of reached a level that I don't think, or maybe I might be wrong. Hopefully, I'm wrong. That there's always another level to go. But it feels like you get to put a little bit put out to pasture. So you just find a level that suits you. So you're no longer striving. You're no longer that ambition.
So constant work, and that's it.
Yeah, but I think I'm fairly happy with what I achieved. I have my regrets, like I mentioned earlier. That all the things you would changed, but in the end, I feel quite happy with the level I've reached. You know, that I've been able to do my job all these years. I don't think a lot of people can say they've enjoyed their work for most of their adult life.
And that's where I would like to leave it. Nick, thank you so much for the time, mate.
My pleasure.
Hi, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. I really hope that you enjoy it, and if you did, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and let me know down below who would you like me to interview next. Until then, I'm gonna see you on the next episode.